Sorry. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's council meeting, November 1st. If you'll please stand for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight, we gather to make decisions for our community. May we use only our best skills and judgment, keeping ourselves impartial and neutral as we consider the merits and pitfalls of each matter that is placed before us, and always act in accordance with what is best for our community and our fellow citizens. This past week, we have one of our members up here has lost a loved one, so I'd like to offer this little prayer. Eternal rest grant unto them, O Lord, and let perpetual light shine upon them. May their souls and all the souls of the faithful departed, through the mercy of God, rest in peace. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, welcome to our first meeting of November. Number one, roll call when you're ready.
Mrs. Lingo. Mr. Parsons.
Here.
Mr. Redding.
Here.
Mrs. Dosa. Here. Mr. George.
Here.
Mr. Mueller.
Here.
Mr. Young.
Here.
Okay, we have one absent. She called, is unable to make it.
Make a motion to excuse Miss Lingo.
We have a motion by Mr. George to excuse Ms. Lingo and second by Ms. Dosa. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. You have the minutes before you for our last meeting on, what was that date? October 18th. I hope you had a moment to look through them. Are there any corrections that need to be made? Got any, Bob?
I wasn't here. I can't make corrections.
No. Then I would ask for a motion, if you're ready, to adopt as printed.
Make a motion to adopt the minutes
Second.
from
Okay,
October 18th.
Mr. Mueller has made a motion to adopt as printed. Mr. George has seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
You got me there. Opposed? Okay, minutes are approved as printed. I have no correspondence, so I'm going to move on to guest and special events. And the first guest we have tonight is the Chief of Police. Please come on up, sir.
Thank you. City manager asked me to prepare a little snapshot of what's going on in the police department. And before I get into too many things, I just want to let everybody know that our accreditation process is just about completed. As you know, we started this process about 3 years ago with CLIA, which is a Commission for Accreditation of Law Enforcement. And this is a national standard that we are attempting to gain compliance with. And what we have to demonstrate is that we've done it for the last 3 years. And so we're in the final steps of that. Today, we were notified that there will be an on-site accreditation managers here to do a physical inspection of all the things that we're shipping up to them this week, which has been kind of a little bit of a hectic, trying to get all the fine points, all the I's dotted and T's crossed, so to speak. And then the two assessors will come in on December the 5th and 6th to do the actual on-site inspection, and that may include speaking with members of council as well as the manager and the mayor. So we're kind of excited about that. It's a big step for us. I don't think that we've ever gotten quite this far along in the accreditation process in the past. And so it's a step towards professionalism. And it also sets a template for future activities within the police department. You know that all of our policies, procedures, and training methodologies are all accredited and have the stamp and seal of approval of CALEO, which carries a lot of weight in the law enforcement industry, and also it shields us from a certain amount of liability, and I think it's just a tremendous accomplishment, and really want to thank Nick Michaels, who's really done a tremendous amount of work on this particular project while still maintaining a patrol status out there, which we'll get into in just a second. The other thing I wanted to mention real briefly, and again, this was hot off the press today, Katie Feld, our mayor's court clerk, has been working diligently with all the unpaid fines that we have out there, quite a substantial number. We were able to come up with a methodology where people can use their phones to click onto the little QR codes and take you right into the payment system. So our hope is that we're trying to make the payment process as easy as possible, and a lot of folks like doing that stuff online as opposed to having to come in and go through all the rigmarole of coming in here and parking and coming in and paying. So this should make things a lot easier. Katie's done a tremendous job pulling this together. We've also employed, or will try to employ, I should say, a collection agency to help us with some of these collections as we move forward. As I mentioned, there's a substantial amount of unpaid fines out there, and any attempt to get these things in will certainly benefit us as we move forward. So my thanks to Katie. Most of this is all self-initiated activity on her part. So I gave everybody a quick little overview of major activity within the police department, and I tried to keep it as simple as we could. I know it seems a little busy, but if you open up your little packets, I'll try, excuse me, I'll try to explain it as best I can. So the first page there are Part 1 crimes. Part 1 crimes, if you don't remember, are the crimes that are reported to the federales. The FBI takes these every year and publishes them. They're used to assess risk within a community. It's utilized in a lot of different methods. Primarily, one of the issues that we need to be concerned about is they'll use this to do a comparison, a safety comparison with other communities of similar size. So people that are looking to move or maybe start a business in our community, if they check these UCR reports, which is what they're called, they can do a quick comparison of crime and crime statistics within the area. Overall, you know, we have a relatively safe community. What we're seeing primarily is a shift away from kind of order maintenance type activity and more into urban policing type of activities. What that means is order maintenance were the general, you know, theft reports or the minor incidents that didn't require a whole lot of investigation and follow-up. And what we're seeing now is a move towards the rapes, the robberies, those kinds of shootings, which require extensive amount of investigation. As you know, we have one detective. He's a pretty busy fella, and our other officers all take on the role of being an investigator as well to try to assist. We're pretty stable. I think as you look across the board, we start with homicide, rape, robbery, aggravated assault, burglary, larceny, motor vehicle theft, arson, and then you have a total number by month, and then at the bottom you have the yearly total of Part 1 crimes, which runs about 400 a year over the last 3 years. It's been relatively steady. Total incidents, those are all the incidents that are reported to police that require some type of follow-up. As you can see, in 2020, we were at 9,700. 2021, we were 8,700, and so far this year, we're about 6,700. So, you know, there's a lot more work that our officers do than just the incidents that are reported out on an annual basis, but it gives you some idea. And then we take a look at the auto accidents, and the reason we have that on there, obviously, is they're pretty time-consuming to do an auto accident. So we're running right around 250 a year that we do there. Traffic citations, those are citations that our officers issue. 1,200 in 2020, 1,873 in 21, and about 1,234 so far this year. And then the DV is a domestic violence. Domestic violence plays a big role in our daily activity. Unfortunately, you know, we're seeing about 300 cases a year. You can do the math, and you know that one of those takes about 4 or 5 hours to complete and generally requires at least a 2-officer response, sometimes more. And then if there's an arrest made, our officers have to leave the city to transport somebody downtown. You've heard me say this before, there's a small booklet of data that we have to fill out for everybody, and it's required. And that takes a couple hours to complete these, we call them DV packages, or domestic violence packages. So that gives you a quick snapshot of the last 3 years, where we're at, where we're going. You know, I'd call your attention to, say, the rape category to kind of emphasize my point. Last year we had 14, so far this year we're at 11. If you take a look at the homicides, which were extremely unusual at one time, last year we had 4, this year so far we've had 2. Aggravated assaults, those are assaults where a person is injured. You see we're up in the 74, 75 range. The larcenies have maintained pretty steady across the board over the last couple of years as well, but these are the things that take a lot of time. And just to give you a quick snapshot, what, you know, people ask, well, what does your detective do? So he's been averaging quite a few cases, and as I said, the officers, all the officers are basically patrol officers and detectives, the way we are staffed. Right now, Chris is carrying major cases only. So we have 2 major thefts that he's investigating, 3 rapes, 3 felonious assaults where persons were shot, an aggravated robbery, an auto theft, a patient neglect. And that doesn't get into all the different crimes that we seem to be tracking that are internet-based, for lack of a better way to put it. Somebody threatens somebody on the social media pages, or somebody sends nude pictures of themselves across the media, which then gets into the wrong hands and then goes all over the place. So those kinds of things take an enormous amount of time because we gotta get search warrants to get into Google, and it's just a very complicated and complex process that takes an enormous amount of time, effort, and energy for one person to deal with. And that kind of gets into my little speech here at the end with staffing issues. But just to give you a snapshot on that, I don't know if anybody's got any questions on that. I'm happy to answer as we're going along. If you look at the second page, it's our criminal investigations. So these are actual investigations that our officers have been assigned. And as you can see at the very top, year 2022, so far this year, we've had about 6,700 total incidents that we've been called out on. Of those 6,700 incidents, those resulted in 952 investigations assigned to officers for follow-up and review. Of those 952 investigations, 332 of those would fall into the category of Part 1 crimes, or serious felonies that are reported up to the federal government. And how we respond to those, so 20% of those have been closed by arrest, 13% have been closed where we have identified the perpetrator, but the victims don't want to prosecute for a whole host of reasons. So we are identifying a suspect in 33% of the cases that we've assigned to our officers this year, which is relatively high. Inactive means that there are no investigative leads, and so the case stays basically on the shelf. If we are able to develop investigative leads at a future date, then we would reopen that case. But right now, about 17% of our cases fall in the inactive category. And then unfounded, or where our officers respond, conduct an investigation, and determine that what was reported to them was false, that no crime actually occurred. And you can see that stays relatively consistent across the board there as well. Missing persons, I have a few more years on there than just the last 3, but kind of gives you an idea. And the reason we put these on here is because a lot of times this is some of the, what I call the backroom stuff that really doesn't fall into any category. People call and tell us somebody's missing. We have to jump through a whole bunch of hoops. It's not just a matter of taking a report and forgetting about it. We're required, if they stay missing for more than 10 days, we're required to send fingerprints and dental records. Somebody has to continue to track those through the LEADS and NCIC. Those are the police computer statewide national computer databases where they get entered into. We have to conduct audits of that every month, and we have to make sure that anything that we have entered as a missing person is actually a missing person, and if not, we have to take steps to have that removed. That sounds kind of easy, but it gets really complicated, especially when you get multiple jurisdictions involved and people not calling us back and telling us that, you know, their child just came home, or a lot of times these are runaway cases as well. So again, takes up a lot of time, effort, and energy takes us away from the patrol duties extensively. Yes, sir.
So this is both adult and
Yes.
children?
Total
Okay.
missing, total
Okay.
missing, yeah. Traffic citations, this is required by CALEA. And so you can see in 2022, what the total so far this year is 1,234. And then we have to break it down by African-American male, African-American female, white female, male other female. And then OVI are intoxicated people that are operating motor vehicles, and parking violations are pretty self-explanatory. So you can see how that all works. And then the last, which is several pages long, is a staffing overview and considerations. I had done this back in August for the manager as he came into office. And we were talking a little bit about it before we started here this evening, but we're in interesting times. So our business model was created with the idea that we would have at least 3 to 4 part-time officers to conduct patrol for us, and that those 3 and 4 officers in that part-time category, we're going to be working probably 40 hours plus a week, but we also knew that they would be seeking full-time employment. So we had a bit of a constant turnover of part-time people coming and going, which created a lot of issues. So initially, before all the state and federal requirements and mandates that came down about how we have to train and what we have to do and equipment that we have to provide, this was a pretty easy thing to do. As those requirements came down, it became much more difficult. So we have to train the same way we train the regular full-time officers. We have to equip the same way we equip the full-time officers. Body armor has to be purchased on an individual basis. It has to be fitted for each individual person. Body armor runs about $1,000 a person. We do have a grant which pays for a significant portion of that, but some of that still has to come out of our general funds budget. Somewhere down the road, somebody got the idea that being a police officer was not exactly an ideal profession to be in any longer. And so it became harder and harder to find part-time people. Most people obviously seek full-time employment with the risks of being a police officer and the litigation that sometimes follows. Police officers around, the concept of part-time slowly kind of faded away, and that really faded away over the last 3 or 4 years. Not only are we having difficulty finding part-time people or people that want to, get their start in law enforcement, the police academies are having difficulty finding people to enter the police academy. So the number of available applicants has dwindled significantly. And quite frankly, we were having a discussion with some of the other chiefs everybody's experiencing this. It's not unique to us by any stretch of the imagination. It's becoming very difficult to find full-time people. So we're kind of at a crossroads. Our business model requires at least 3 or 4 part-time officers to fill in when we're doing training or somebody wants to take a holiday or a vacation. The other part of this equation, the original business model was designed where one person would be on patrol, and we just can't do that any longer. I mean, those days are gone. Officers don't feel safe being out there by themselves, and quite frankly, I don't blame them, given the number of guns and drugs and different things that we're taking off of folks on an almost daily basis. The thought of making a traffic stop by yourself at 2 o'clock in the morning is not really a good idea by any stretch of the imagination. So the problem that we're having is, and I've mentioned this in our monthly report to council, is we haven't successfully recruited a part-time person in over a year. The people that we have had apply for the part-time position are people that were dismissed from other agencies. And quite frankly, you know, we just don't need that headache, especially if they were fired for all kinds of different stuff. So we need to figure out what we're going to do. If we continue down this, we just can't sustain what we're doing. We're burning people out. We have a lot of very good, talented people downstairs that we've invested a lot of time, effort, and energy in. If we continue down this path, and I'm thankful to the good Lord it hasn't happened yet. If we get more people leaving, then we need to have a conversation about what shifts do we shut down, or how do we provide police service, because we won't have enough people to staff patrol duties. And we're real close to that right now. You know, in this environment, quite a few police agencies lost a substantial number of officers to other agencies, larger agencies. City of Cincinnati is paying a $2,000 sign-up bonus stipend for people. Their starting salary is much higher than us. Of course, having come from Cincinnati, I can tell you that, you know, their job is a lot more demanding than ours, but unfortunately, we've seen a significant increase in the violent crimes here, and we don't have the resources to address those like Cincinnati does. And the opportunities for specialized assignments, we don't have those opportunities here. So those are some big things that we're competing with, and you know, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but we need to figure out what we're going to do moving forward, because the part-time equation, or part of the equation, is dead. It's not going to work. I can't find anybody. The full-time is going to be a challenge, and we need to figure out how we're going to provide the police service that we've promised to our community as we move forward. So that's kind of where we're at. I don't know if anybody has any questions or thoughts or concerns. I'm happy to answer them as best I can.
Mr. Redding?
So you talked about Collegia certification. So just exactly how close are we, and is there an annual review to keep that certification, or?
Yes. Barring any unforeseen circumstances, we will have our certification once these 2 police chiefs come and do their assessment of our building. So we should have the official CALEA certification at the end of December at the latest. We will be going down to actually receive it, so it's like a presentation, a formal presentation that they'll make probably in March or April.
Okay.
And then there is an ongoing requirement. If you want to continue to be certified, you have to continue to provide the proofs that your department is still adhering to the policies and best practices that CALEA set forth.
Okay. And then another question on, I guess it would be page 2, on looking at the annual numbers. The total incidents have gone down by 3,000. Is there any reason for that over the last couple of years, or?
So I'd like to
20
tell you that.
I
it
know
was-
22 is a year-to-date.
Right.
So,
22 is definitely year-to-date. I'd like to tell you it's because you had this great police chief. That's not true. So I really have no explanation for that, other than to tell you that without doing a lot of in-depth research to figure it out. I can tell you that we have stepped up patrols. Our officers are out there constantly. They're working hard with the community. We don't just take a patrol view of lock up everybody. You know, we try to do a lot of things with the community. We just had a big event over the Clover Nook Apartments. Debbie Robin, who is a volunteer and has volunteered countless hours, does all kinds of things in the communities. We have a lot of community engagement. So some of that certainly helped. The fact that we stepped up our patrols and we did make an arrest, the mandatory arrest policy that we put into place with domestic violence situations, I think has helped keep that number at least in check. And I just think you got a lot of good people downstairs right now that are doing the job and doing it very well, and it's keeping things in check. My concern is, maintaining that long term.
Any other questions, council?
Good report, thank you. Wouldn't have known this otherwise.
thanks,
so.
Chief.
Sure, my pleasure. And I think Mr. Brower wanted me to mention to you that we've had discussions. I think you're all aware that I'm pretty old, and it's time to go play golf. So I'll be leaving at the end of the year.
Sorry to hear that, Chief. We'll miss you.
I'm still around. I'm happy to help, but I appreciate the confidence, and it's been fun.
Fun?
Not really.
I appreciate,
Well, Chief, is it the absolute very end of the year, I'm hoping? So,
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I probably, it's going to extend, I'm working with the pension folks, trying to figure out the medical portion. And my hope is sometime probably around the end of the year, beginning of January sometime. I know that Scott has taken steps to get the Ohio Chiefs on board to help with a recruitment and selection process, and I'll be around, so I'm happy to help, and I wish you all the best.
Hope we could
Thank you,
keep you a
Chief.
little longer.
Until at least you get a replacement for you.
so
Thank you very much for your
Thank you
report.
for your service.
Yeah,
I appreciate it,
sir.
and I remember the days of the interviews, and I think we definitely picked the best. So, thank you so much for everything you've done.
My pleasure.
yeah, thank you,
Appreciate
Chief.
it.
Yay.
Thanks, Chief.
That's a big loss for our community. We will move forward, though, and get another good person. Move on. Okay, special events and guests, still on that. Aaron Horsley. We'll talk about the wetlands, huh?
Yes, sir.
All right.
First, I would like to thank members of council, the city manager, and Mayor Wolf for inviting me to speak this evening about our wetlands park on Forest Avenue. The wetlands, originally established to create a watershed for Ronald Reagan Highway, has the potential to be a sanctuary for local wildlife and residents alike from the hustle and bustle of urban life. Mount Healthy is blessed to have 3 wonderful parks in a city that is only 1 square mile in size. Research from the National Recreation and Parks Association has shown in cities that provide ready and easy access to parks to their residents, enjoy lower rates of depression, anxiety, stress, and other mental health disorders. This is not including the numerous physical health benefits. Therefore, the city government and its residents need to work together to maintain the natural beauty that surrounds us in the city we call home. While it doesn't go without notice the countless hours and dollars spent to maintain and improve the Mount Healthy City Park, within the remaining parks, the wetlands notably, rotting benches, poorly maintained trails, vandalism, litter, and the introduction of invasive species now threaten it and the natural ecology. The first major challenge facing the wetlands is the removal of the Asian honeysuckle. Not native to this region, nor North America, it is extremely invasive. The climate in our region allows for a longer growing season than in its native home. This allows the honeysuckle to quickly take over. It does this by emitting a chemical into the soil to stunt the growth of roots and competitor plants, and it covers the lower canopy with shade, snuffing out native species. When the lower canopy is gone, eliminating the support to the soil that the upper canopy of trees, which have taken years to grow and need to sustain themselves, trees will begin to die and fall. This may seem like a task that is insurmountable, but starting by simply removing the honeysuckle from the initial green space in the front of the park will almost double the amount of available space for residents. Exploring the park in the fall and in the winter months, one can see this area was designed to be used for this purpose. However, the overgrowth has caused benches, picnic tables, and grills to be swallowed up and lost to public use. I asked the council to establish a volunteer committee of residents in which I would like to lead, given the opportunity. This committee would work alongside with the city in finding solutions, the sharing of ideas and resources for beautification, and continued support of our city's parks. This collective effort would help relieve the burden of labor from our team of maintenance workers, while, that will work tirelessly to maintain our city cannot be reasonably expected to tackle this challenge alone. You'll find in your handout as well, I've included the research from the National Recreation and Parks Association that looks a little bit deeper into the mental health benefits, as well as the citations on the back. And then following the second packet, these are some pictures that I've collected from around the wetlands park showing its current condition. I have spent countless hours this summer and spring volunteering, doing work to try to bring the park back up to the best that I can. However, I feel like we're at a crossroads in which I need the city's support. It's less of a money issue and more of a, I need equipment and resources and these available things. Honestly, the biggest thing is tackling the honeysuckle. If that honeysuckle isn't removed, it is going to start to destroy the park. And in probably the next 10 years, the only thing that you're going to have in there is large maturity trees and honeysuckle. And it won't even really be usable for the public. Actually, on the first page, you'll see on the right, this whole area that the picnic table is surrounded by is nothing but honeysuckle. Let's see. On the second page, you can't actually see it from the picture on the left, but buried inside there is actually multiple park grills and benches that people should be able to use. On the right, we'll actually come back to that picture in a second. On the third page, you'll see one of many white oaks that have reached maturity. These trees are all being threatened by the honeysuckle because of the way the honeysuckle establish themselves. It takes away from the trees being able to thrive and be able to continue their species. As they drop seeds, the honeysuckle prevents these new saplings from being able to grow. So you may have trees now, but in the future, we could lose them all. On the right side, you'll see a children's play gym. It's actually not in that bad of a shape. Honestly, it just needs some repainting to cover up the rust, just to keep children safe, and a good power wash to clean it off. On the next page, I actually allocated an entire page to this just to show you this entire area here should be open green space. If you walk around and look, you'd have to walk the trail and go back in there where the picnic bench is. You can see that the whole area was once green space, but as the honeysuckle grew and got established, it covered the whole area and made it unusable. On the last page that's stapled together, you'll see a flower planter that some residents put in, and apparently just from talking from different people in the neighborhood, this is one of many attempts that's been done by the community to try to revitalize their park. And just talking with different residents, you know, it's many people, I hear one of two things. One, I seriously miss the park the way that it used to be, or two, I've never even heard of this park. You know, and I would like to work to change that. And then the last picture you'll see is the only security light that is on property, and it is not functioning.
Is that a security light or is that a street light?
It's a street light, but I feel like its purpose was to be a security light.
Yeah, that should be, but
Yeah.
Duke should take care of that, right? I believe they were aware of it.
Street lights
Yeah.
out. Yeah, that's just, you can actually,
Have you reached
File
out
that
to the
online.
commission, like to Denise or to the tree commission to help you with these at all?
Yes, so Denise was gonna be here tonight, but she unfortunately wasn't able to make it. And I actually spent a couple of hours, speaking with her, and she was the one that invited me to, make this presentation. She's very interested in seeing this park, revitalized and brought back up to its former glory. This last page that is not stapled, I actually kind of did this one last minute, just to kind of show you what can be accomplished in a very short amount of time. I did this afternoon with a simple pair of trimmers and a broom and a rake, and cleared out this entire area, and now it's usable again. And what I would like to see happen is to be able to collaborate with the city maintenance to either bring them out, or us and myself and some volunteers get certified to be able to use power tools so that we can more effectively clear this out. I know one of the biggest issues that we're facing right now is acquiring a wood chipper, because I've kind of laid everything out. I can get the honeysuckle cut out, cut into pieces that are manageable, and put into piles. It's just the disposal that's the issue. I do have a friend of mine that used to work for the city of Silverton and their maintenance department, and he informed me that they do loan out their wood chipper, so that may be a possible option. But I would like to see a committee established so we can kind of work through these possible options together and figure out what the best solution is for the park.
Jamie and Danny, isn't that something that We Thrive could help with?
Not for manpower. And that's part of my ask. Does it make more sense establishing another committee? Or would it make more sense giving resources towards an existing committee like the Tree Commission to spearhead this effort?
Just because of the work that we are doing in the Tree Commission currently, we're going to be a little bit tied up in getting our newly planted trees on Elizabeth Street established. So right now, I don't think that they'd really be able to allocate a whole lot of resources to it. Now, in the future, I feel like they would absolutely be able to give us manpower to be able to do this, but for right now, no.
So if you want to establish a group to do this, that's great. What's the specific ask? Like, what specifically would you need? Certain dollar amount, equipment,
Mainly equipment, yes.
such as, specifically?
Yeah, so
I'm trying to figure out where we could get stuff from, but I need to know what we need. Yeah.
So chainsaws, hedge trimmers, loppers, like just typical lawn care equipment. Obviously, the wood chipper and a truck to be able to shoot the debris into to get it transported.
So one thing, there's a scout troop that goes out every May and does this. In fact, this picture is, you can see this. This was all overgrown. The scout troop actually did that. And what they do is rent a wood chipper from Home Depot and then spread the chips on the path back there.
Okay. And
Go ahead.
sorry. Alternatively, I did speak with the head of Tecan Farm.
Yeah.
She said if disposal was an issue, she would absolutely be willing to take on as much as we can give her as far as wood chips go. They use it on their farm. So we would have that as a backup as well, so it wouldn't pile up in the park somewhere.
So we definitely do have funds available through We Thrive, and there's other networks we can get funds for, whether it's to rent or buy chainsaws, hedge trimmers, et cetera.
Sure.
So really, if you
Manpower.
get a group together and give a proposal of how much you need, we can figure out where to do that.
Okay.
We've done that with many groups over the years for many different projects. There used to be Clean Up Mount Healthy, where the city would fund things. If we can find things through We Thrive, we'll fund it that way. That's how we funded a lot of the improvements in the park, was through We Thrive. We found a grant to do the path. We found grants to do to buy all the soccer goals. There's always ways to get this, and work with that. So if you can find a group and kind of give us a breakdown of what exactly you need and a price, we can propose it to We Thrive for funding,
Okay.
for sure.
And then as far as liability goes, because I mean, obviously power tools are gonna be involved, is there anything that we should go through with the city that volunteers would need to sign in the event? there
I
was
can
an accident?
research that. I've,
I think there's a
that sounds
volunteer agreement you have to sign. It says you're liable
Yeah.
for yourself, and I
Right.
don't know if we'd want to give chainsaws
right.
and power equipment. I mean, we could give loppers and manual equipment.
Yeah, well, and then that's kind of where I was wanting to
Wouldn't that
reach
be a
out.
Scott question?
Yeah, that's kind of where I was wanting to reach out to city maintenance and see where, you know, in the areas where they would be necessary, you know, to come out and do their part of it and then go back to, you know, to whatever.
Right, I
they're
think
doing.
that's an option too. We do it ourselves, that part of it, and then
Yeah, then we
if
take
you
care of
rented
the
a wood
rest.
chipper, you could handle that part. you know,
Yes, I know.
Right.
Somehow divide up the labor, yeah. Figure something out.
Mr. Redding?
So, a couple of questions real quick.
Sure.
Have you tried to remove any of the honeysuckle stumps?
Not yet, and
Okay.
I'm actually doing that on purpose. Today, the last picture that I showed you was more of just a demonstration. You don't really want to remove the stump unless you plan on digging the entire thing out.
Well-
Because of how they establish themselves, there's a chemical that you can actually paint over the top of the honeysuckle stump and it will kill it at the roots.
How big are the stumps that you saw today?
It varies. It honestly varies. I have some that I was able to pull out with my hand. They were no
Right.
bigger than a twig, and then some were in full diameter, nearly as big as a tree.
So we have some options here, right? I do this every spring at since I've retired on our land on St. Clair. And it's absolutely easiest to get the stumps out in the spring,
Okay.
okay? After the snow melt and everything else, starting around April. Cut them off, you can cut them off this fall. You can load them in a truck and take them to Rumpke for free up until Thanksgiving. Now, they're open from 8:30 to 2 every Saturday and Sunday up until the end of November.
Okay.
And I'm not gonna offer every Saturday and Sunday up till then, but I'd be happy to help.
Sure.
And if you need a chainsaw, I don't know if city employee, I don't know, again, we'd have to check on liability. I don't wanna just walk back there with my chainsaw and do it, so.
I'll look into it.
There's also a group of residents that are interested, that had the exact same proposal to me personally. They wanted to do this down at Heritage Park, so I give them, the same answer. You know, let us know exactly what you need and we'll, get it to you. That was during the summer and I haven't heard anything back, but
Okay.
there are other people interested in this kind of work, volunteer work, so
Could
I
I
can
speak
try
with
to
you
connect you
after
with
council
them.
for that?
Sorry?
Could I speak with you after council, and
Yeah, I can connect you with them.
that'd be great.
I think this would be easier for the maintenance crew in the late fall and winter too, because they're not cutting so much grass and doing so much,
Right.
landscape maintenance, so they'd have more time to pick up clippings and take them and chip them, whatever.
Yeah, and in the fall and winter months, it's just easier to access those areas in general, because what little natural vegetation remains is pretty well died out. And the only thing that remains is the honeysuckle, so just getting in there and getting to it.
So as far as the root ball is concerned, are you gonna cut it down at ground level and paint that stuff on it?
That's correct.
Because my experience, I didn't know about that paint stuff, is as soon as you cut it, it's gonna grow back.
That's correct.
So I always just pulled the root out, the entire ball. But if they have that stuff, I think that would be the way to go, really.
Yeah, it's gonna be kind of a 50-50 split. The ones that are small enough and make sense to have pulled straight out, that's what I wanted to do. And for the ones that it is just unsurmountable just to yank out, we'll paint
Right.
that over and cut them down.
Yeah, I mean, I would volunteer some time, but we'll see what you need and kind of what your time frame is. I mean, again, I think, the fall and the winter's the best time to get in there.
Right, I
you know,
agree.
knock it down now. You're obviously not gonna get all of it
No,
in one shot, but, given a couple years, I think, and maintaining it, you definitely make progress.
yeah, and that's the thing too, is I want everybody to keep in mind is, the initial push, that's gonna be the hardest part. But once we have it under control, it's pretty well as simple as going there and yanking them out of the soil every once in a while.
Yeah, you can take loppers, pull them out of the soil, like you said, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the way to go, yeah.
Is there any other
Front
questions?
end's gonna be the difficult part, but
It is.
it can be done. I mean, I'm with Keisha. I think, you know, some tools are needed, but I think manpower is people power is the way to go, so,
And I would even look at reaching out, like Jamie said, to the Boy Scout troops, to
for sure.
the community, to the individuals that reached out to him and some of those other groups, and collaboratively work together. And you would have a great resource of people right there.
No, that would be fantastic. I do have about 8 or 10 people that I've talked with that are interested in helping, you know, outside of council. And I would need a minimum of 10 to 15 people to complete this project, but the more the merrier.
I'd be happy to join in here and there.
I appreciate that.
What, I mean, I have some resources. What can we bring? What can't we bring? I mean,
He doesn't know.
I have a side-by-side. Can that be put on the property? I mean, I know the chainsaw thing, you know, what can and can't be done. I don't,
I mean, as far as equipment on the property, I mean, if you're bringing it there to help
Okay.
maintain it, I don't think that's an issue. It's really just gonna be a matter of who's using it. You know, if it was city equipment and a volunteer using it, I think that's what we have to research. But, I mean, what do you typically use a machete, I think, when you're going through cutting stuff? I mean, any equipment you bring on is fine. I mean, you wanna take
Yeah.
on that liability and do the work. I mean, city's totally happy for you to
Yeah.
take on that yourself.
I use the machete to deal with the honeysuckle because obviously there's no risk of damaging the plant that I really care about. For the remaining plants, because I do try to also maintain the trees that are on the property on my own, I use more sophisticated equipment, but
Yeah, so bringing stuff on the premise, I don't think is an issue if it was your own
Okay.
equipment.
It's just other people using your equipment that you have to be concerned.
Yeah.
right.
Okay. Let us know. Get us a list of what you need.
yeah, get something together and give it to mayor and see what's going on.
I can do that. Thank you very much for your time.
No,
Thank you for your
Aaron,
efforts.
thank you very much.
So much.
Thanks.
Okay, we're going to move on then to public input. Anybody here who'd like to address council? Come on up to the microphone, dear. We need your name and address, please.
Hi, my name is Chanel, and I live at 2313 Aquarius Drive.
Say that again.
2313 Aquarius Drive. And my name is Chanel. So I'm here representing the U.S. Department of Labor's Mercy Health Retain program. And just to give you a little bit of insight on what it's like. So right now we've piloted in Youngstown, Toledo, and Cincinnati in the state of Ohio, but we have 4 other states involved. Now the U.S. Department of Labor does want this to be eventually become a national program. But right now we're just, you know, working in local regions, so I've decided to take on the Cincinnati region. And so what I've been doing and what it's about is that we help people who have been injured outside of the workforce stay employed. So essentially they can't file for workers' compensation, they tend to go for SSDI. At that point, they tend to just not want to go back to work because now they're getting a check, or for whatever reason, they just have lost motivation to return to the workforce. And so the government's trying to curb that a little bit. Obviously, we've taken a lot of hits with COVID, you know, so the workforce has been dwindling, and they're doing everything they can to try to, like, rebuild it. And so what RETAIN stands for is the Retaining Employment Talent After Injury Network. And so essentially we partner with physicians and employers in the local community to build a care plan for that employee so they can stay employed. So for example, I have a lot of patients who maybe they work at Amazon and they broke their ankle and it didn't happen at the job and it happened at home, and now they're like, okay, I can't get workers' comp, I can't go back to work, they don't have a chair for me to continue doing my job, or whatever the reason may be. So what we do is say, you know what, I'm gonna go approach Amazon and I'm gonna see if I can offer them an ergonomic. So the U.S. Department of Labor has allotted the state of Ohio $18.8 million, and through that grant, we do kind of funnel that money out to the community. So I would go to Amazon and say, you know, you have an injured employee who can't return to work, can I buy you a chair so they can continue doing their job, so they can sit if they need a standing desk? You know, we try to offer them those kind of incentives. Only thing that we ask from that employer is that they would have to sign up to be a part of the program, and then that's essentially it. That there's no cost involved. The only thing is that we want them to maintain their employees as much as possible. Now, the physicians that I work with, typically we have a treatment plan for them. So if they say you can't stand on your ankle for 6 weeks or whatever that case may be, we honor that treatment plan, but that's a whole nother situation with Mercy Health doctors that tends to get pretty murky from time to time. But we focus on patients who have, orthopedic injuries, cardiac injury or cardiac illnesses. We've even taken on some mental health cases, maybe even some neurosurgery cases and things like that. So anything that pretty much keeps a person out of work that doesn't have to do with work, we're going to try to address that. Now, it is a study, and so we have 2 groups. We have a treatment and a control group. Now, everybody who enrolls in this study gets all of the resources. The only difference is that in the control group, we can't really offer any of our control patients. Their employers don't get like ergonomics. They don't get help with financial assistance or things like that, but they still get resources such as references if they need a job. I can't have a team help you with that, but I can refer you to Ohio Means Jobs, and me and my coworker work very closely with the supervisor there. But if you're in the treatment group, I can say, I've had people say, I need a ramp to get out of my house to get to work. I have a job, I just can't get out of my house. I can say, we have a grant that can help fund that ramp for you if it helps you get back to work. So we have guidelines and stipulations. Now, we don't necessarily just give money directly to the patients. We have to give it to the organization or maybe their employer directly. Or maybe if they say, I need a ramp, we would go literally buy them a ramp. We wouldn't just give them money to go get a ramp. So that's a little bit what that looks like, but I definitely want to break down my workflow a little bit. So I am a research coordinator, and so what I do every day, what I used to do was I would wake up and I would go approach Mercy Health physicians pretty much every day, typically orthopedics, and I would look at their patient list and say, you have this many injured patients. Do you mind being a part of this program through the U.S. Department of Labor? Now, many of them, we have recruited pretty much 90% of everyone in Cincinnati and then outside of the Cincinnati region as well, Youngstown and Toledo, into the program from Mercy Health. Now, the problem is that I have to take on employer recruitment, but I'm having a hard time getting into these employers because I think they hear the word Mercy Health and they're like, what does this have to do with me? But Mercy Health is just like a host facility for the U.S. Department of Labor's program. So it's not necessarily, through Mercy Health, but it's facilitated through Mercy Health. And something else I was noticing was that there aren't too many Mercy Healths located in regions that we are looking to target. So we are focusing on lower income neighborhoods or maybe people from minority communities. So when I do say the word Mercy Health, they're like, well, my employees don't even see a Mercy Health physician, and that's okay. But 9 times out of 10, they don't have insurance or they don't see a physician at all. We can help them even more if they wanted to have those resources. I can literally send them to a doctor if they needed one, or we have insurance, things set up so we can help pay for those things. So we have a treatment plan set up for these employers and their injured employees. It's just about getting in, finding time to discuss this with them, just finding a space that they're willing to listen to what the program is about. So I'm kind of having a hard time with that. I have started outreach here in Mount Healthy about 2 weeks ago. So I was just going up and down Hamilton Avenue, and something that I was noticing was that a lot of the employers, they like the idea of the program, they just don't see where it fits for them personally. But the thing about it is it's a pilot study, so it ends in 2025. And if it goes well, the U.S. Department of Labor will adopt it permanently, and then it will become nationwide. So I just want a lot of employers to know that it's just a pilot. You can use the resources if the opportunity presents itself, but you don't have to use it. We actually don't want you to have injured employees, but when you do have it, we really want you to be able to have access to all of the resources possible. I always tell employers, it's not that we want to take over any employee wellness program that you already have in place. We just want to add to it. So if there's something missing, probably the U.S. Department of Labor has something that can step in and fill in for that. So I just kind of wanted to let you guys know that I will be targeting the Cincinnati community, Mount Healthy community, St. Bernard communities, just all the local outreaches. But I always want to approach the leadership first just to see if you guys have any ideas on what employment looks like in this community, and maybe I can use that when I try to approach local employers so they can feel a little bit connected to what's going on. But yeah.
Sounds like a wonderful program.
Yes.
Yes. Questions, council?
I just recommend approaching the senior homes.
Yeah.
Those are our biggest employers in town. The
Okay.
school districts are biggest, but they have a lot of protections for their employees
Okay,
that are injured.
the
Um,
senior homes.
There's lots of them. So there's Hearthstone down here, there's Mount Healthy
Christian Home.
Christian Village, there's Ridgewood.
One at the end of Affinity, I can't think of the name of
Yeah,
it.
a HEPA,
HEPA,
Affinity
yep.
Place.
Mm-hmm.
What's the one back there?
Martin.
That one
That's
doesn't have
not a-
employees, really. Yeah. It's like independent living. But yeah, there are, those are big employers.
Okay,
And those seem to be more the type that would
be
benefit
interested.
from this.
Yeah.
Opposed to a little mom and pop shop uptown.
Yeah, I'm noticing maybe I'm shooting too small for the small businesses, but you want to offer it to pretty much everyone who
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can.
For sure.
Why not?
Yeah. So essentially, what I would like to see happen when it gets closer to 2025 is that we do help, obviously, a larger amount of employers. But even if I can bring you guys reports back and say, since since I've enrolled this many, employers from the Mount Healthy community into the program, if there's any stats that we can compare and you can say, from this point, we've had these many people unemployed in the community. Since Retain has been here, we have this many people unemployed. And if it decreases, that would be great for us to even bring back to the U.S. Department of Labor and say, what, this program is actually looking like a promising program. So I hope that we can continue to work together with that.
Please come back and give us updated.
Definitely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Very much, yes. Anybody else here who would like to speak to council?
Did you have handouts for us? Yes. Can we see that?
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, moving on then, we go to the mayor's report. Mr. Wolf.
Yep. Just two things real quick. The last farmer's market is this Sunday. That'll be the last one for the year. And actually, I think that is it right now. I will have a bigger update at the next meeting.
Okay. Any questions?
No.
City manager's report, Mr. Bauer.
Let's see, so police chief dropped his bomb on us, right? I guess we knew it was coming, that he's retiring. So I have, in general, started the process. I technically started it in July, but I feel like I'm still at the first step. I mean, basically, I want to kind of do what was done when he was hired, whether it was kind of a panel, there was a neutral assessment that was performed, and there was input from the community. But the sticking point is finding an assessment center that will do the same thing that was done last time. I guess they don't really do it anymore, and some of the other ones that we'd used in the past just aren't doing it. So that's kind of what the hangups are. But the goal is still by the beginning of the year, or maybe by end of January, to have a new police chief. But in general, that's kind of what the process will look like. That will, me, mayor, probably a couple other people, and then a neutral assessment that'll sort of like stick a microphone in their face and say, hey, this incident happened, how would you respond to the press, kind of thing. They'll do that on their using their own criteria to judge them. So that'll be happening hopefully here in the next, really starting it in the next couple of weeks, getting the job posted and getting the assessments lined up, stuff like that.
That's not a civil service position, correct?
Correct. I still wanted to go that route of the assessment that's approved by civil service, just to kind of,
Not really a testing.
right. Let's see. I put the levy mailers on everyone's desk. The box is back there, so whoever, I guess, coordinate with Bob and Joe, who've already gone out, where they still need to be hung. But the official ones are over there.
Yeah,
They didn't cut
you
them.
might want to have a little,
They're perforated, right?
just have a little meeting after the meeting. No, they're not perfect.
Oh, yeah, they are. Oh,
Well,
I didn't see
They're,
that.
they're very slightly
Hidden.
perfect.
It was hidden.
Yep,
Should be perforated.
yeah. Yeah, right there. You'll have to bend them back and forth a couple of
So
times.
either hang it on the doorknob, or you can just stick it in the door
Yeah.
jam, right? I mean, either way is fine. And I've got.
Sticks in the door like this, or sticks in the door like this.
There you go. There you go. And I've got some printed out downstairs, or some out there if anyone would like to just grab one on their way out. It's got all the pertinent information on it. That's really it for the levy. Let's see, stadium, we had talked about their liquor objection last meeting. So Friday, we're gonna meet. It's gonna be myself, Scott Solomon, Mr. Oliver, and his lawyer. We're gonna meet on Friday just to kind of sort of set expectations. Here's how we would like things to look, and, you know, hopefully we can kind of come to some kind of agreement with them. But that's happening Friday. Let's see here. I'm sure everyone's noticed Hamilton Avenue is getting ground up. So they're grinding it up and then putting, I think, 1.5 inches down, like right up, immediately right after. So they're gonna do the whole street, then they'll fix all the manholes, kind of realign things, and then they'll put the next 1.5 inches on. I'm not sure exactly what the timing is, but that's kind of how it's gonna look, so. And it's kind of a mess at Compton right now with both of those getting fixed, but it'll be great when it's done, so. Let's see here. Chief Lawson said the ambulance will be here next week. He should be getting a firm date on Friday. So that's finally arriving here. See, Ross, in new business last meeting, you had mentioned the apron between Just One More and the aquatics. I don't know if you noticed,
Yes.
we were able to get that redone.
Okay, I haven't been up there, but.
Okay,
thank
check it
you.
out. It looks great. They got the pavers, so they're removed and it's now concrete.
Okay,
And then the pavers are nice and level up against it. We were able to roll that into the Compton project. So all the cutting that was being done there, they were able to hop over and do that for us, so.
thank you.
It looks much better. Let's see. Last thing, I've got a first draft of the budget ready. We'll be meeting the 15th to kind of really pick through it and go over it and have it ready to present by December, but at least got kind of a first draft prepped for it. That's all that I have. Yeah, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Questions for the city manager? Okay, I'm going to move on then to ordinances and resolutions. We have 2 of them that are second reading for the ordinances. First one is ordinance number 22-1997. An ordinance assessing costs of the removal of high grass and weeds and declaring an emergency. We had the first reading on the 18th of October. Questions and comments, council? What is your wish then, council? I'd ask for a motion to adopt.
Make a motion to adopt ordinance number 22-1997.
Mr. Parsons has made a motion to adopt. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Young has seconded. When you're ready.
Mrs. Lingo, Mr. Parsons.
Aye.
Mr. Redding.
Aye.
Mrs. Dosa. Mr. George.
Aye.
Mr. Mueller.
Aye.
Mr. Young.
Aye.
Okay, by a vote of 6-0, ordinance number 22-1997 is adopted. Next one is ordinance number 22-1998, an ordinance assessing cost of the removal of litter, rubbish, and garbage, and declaring an emergency. Questions or comments?
This wasn't your house, was it?
No. No, I'm down about a half a block.
This is residence, you know?
Let's see, let me remind myself here.
7716. That's almost straight back here, isn't it? Straight back there. Yeah.
Forgetting
I guess
here.
it's a residence.
Oh, is that,
It would have to be a residence or a church.
Okay.
yeah,
I think so.
is that the one just north of Hill? That would
Might
be
be.
the northeast
Yeah,
side?
probably. Okay.
Sorry, northwest side.
My internet's gone out.
But he had a mess, huh? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure it's a residence.
Yeah, I know that's kind of what I was thinking. That house right
On
there
the
on the
northwest
northwest corner, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, they had a lot of,
Yeah.
They just redid that.
Yeah,
I think
they
it's
just
been on the
redid it,
market
yes.
for,
The green?
you have the white with the green bottom?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking that's the one.
Okay, council, what is your wish? I'd ask for a
Can I make a motion to adopt ordinance number 22-1998?
yes, Mr. George has made a motion to adopt.
I'll second.
Mr. Mueller has seconded. Roll call, please.
Mr. Parsons.
aye.
Mr. Redding,
Aye.
Mrs. Dosa,
Aye.
Mr. George,
Aye.
Mr. Mueller,
Aye.
Mr. Young.
Aye.
Okay, by a vote of 6-0, ordinance number 22-1998 is adopted. Now, there was a resolution on your desk, resolution number 22-1196. A resolution determining the use of competitive bidding process set forth in RC 721-03 to sell for at least $22,230 the city's property located at 7825 Harrison Avenue, parcel number 593-003-0064-00, as it is not needed by the city for any public purpose.
So this is the property we talked about in the executive session. So again, it's behind Gold Star on the west side of Harrison. It's an empty lot. It was condemned in, I think, 2016 and demolished. I think there was some significant Medicaid liens against the property, so it was run down, decrepit, and made sense to demo it. Well, we've gotten calls that someone is interested in purchasing it and building on it. So basically what this is saying is that the city doesn't need it anymore and that we are wanting to put it up for public bid. In general, we have to take the highest bid, but if for some reason we just know whoever has the highest bid is just a bad actor and we don't want them, we have the ability to rescind. We'd have to reject all of the offers. We can't just pick and choose, but in general, we have to take the highest bid. So we at least have that option. But the $22,000, that was derived from the auditor's website. The woman that I talked to that was interested in it, she seemed to think that was a good price, so it seems like we can sell it for that amount. Definitely be a good price for the city. But hey, if we can get, someone else wants to bid more for it, that'd be great too. So I've provided this. This is in general what we have to, post this, was it 6 weeks? Or 5 weeks? 5 weeks? 5 consecutive weeks. We have to post it publicly that it's for sale. So if we pass this tonight, we could get this in the paper by Monday, and then by 12/9, we could close bidding and hopefully accept the highest bid.
So you'd like to have a second reading? First reading? No, well,
Well, if we could do it, if we could,
suspend tonight?
Suspend two
that would be
readings.
great. I mean,
Get it so you can advertise it, or you wait another 3 weeks maybe for?
right, yeah. So as of now, it's gonna take 5 weeks max, or minimum,
Yeah.
but if we wait another 3, that would just,
Okay.
so preferably in one reading tonight.
Any questions, council?
Can we put restrictions on what gets built and that it be owner occupied?
So currently, it would only be just the normal building code, which, roughly, it's gotta be a minimum of 800 square feet and be certain setbacks, just the typical things. As of now, it's not set that that would have to be the case. I know the person who is interested in it, that's what they're looking for, but that is not technically in writing right now. But I could talk to Scott Solomon about it, and I guess I'm not, yeah, I mean, he had suggested making that as well, but,
I think that'd be a good idea. We need owner-occupied residents, not
right.
renters. We got enough.
A single-family house is what we tore down there.
Right,
Yeah.
I wouldn't want somebody to go in there and put a duplex or a four-family.
right.
Be awfully tight anyway, but I don't know what we can do.
Well, to be a duplex or quad, you'd have to have zoning for it. I'm not sure what that's zoned, what specific type of residential zoning it has.
I guess I'd have to get with Bill Knight if that would even be possible on that lot.
Right, right. Yeah.
I mean, he shared with me the zoning ordinances and exactly what it was for, and it was single-family zoning is what would be allowed there. So I mean, I don't,
Okay. Any more questions, council?
Can I make a motion to suspend the 2 reading rule for resolution number 22-1196?
Okay, Mr. George has made a motion to suspend the 2 reading rule.
I'll second it.
Mr. Redding has seconded. Yeah,
Mr. Parsons,
Aye?
Mr. Redding,
Aye.
Mrs. Dosa,
Aye.
Mr. George,
Aye.
Mr. Mueller,
Aye.
Mr. Young.
okay, by a vote of 6-0, the 2 reading rule's been suspended. Okay, any other questions before we move on? Okay, and then I would ask council for a motion to adopt.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution number 22-1196.
Okay, Ms. Dosa has made a motion to adopt.
I'll second
Mr.
that.
Parsons has seconded. Roll call, please.
Mr. Parsons?
Aye.
Mr. Redding?
Aye.
Mrs. Dosa?
Aye.
Mr. George?
Aye.
Mr. Mueller?
Aye.
Mr. Young?
Aye.
Okay, by a vote of 6-0, resolution number 22-11696, I'm sorry, is adopted. That is all of our legislation, resolutions and ordinances. Move on to old business.
I just want to remind the Finance Committee that we have a committee meeting November 15th before our next council meeting at 5:30 to review the 2023 budget in the city manager's office.
Is Denise on that committee?
Denise,
Will you notify her?
and anybody else who wants to come. I will let her know. Oh, she knows, but I will remind her.
Okay, reminder.
I sent you sent me the budget. I forwarded it to the mayor and the other committee members.
Stuff.
So 5:30 before the next council.
Any other old business, council?
I don't know if it falls under old business or not, but Greg Cutter retired yesterday at 4, I think he put, but we didn't mention that last meeting, but I think I'm not saying it's old because he's old, but I know he's watching probably, but, but would like to thank him for all of his years and his time he's put in here, so.
He's here a long time.
Enjoys the grandkids and enjoys his campground and travel in his car, so.
Awesome.
Thank you, Mr. Young. I was not aware that I knew retirement was coming up, but I
Yeah, I didn't know it was already.
was not aware that he has done it.
It happened the way he wanted it to happen. He did not want anything special done. We tried, I promised, to make it extra special, and he, yeah,
Beg to differ on that, huh?
right.
Yeah. New business, council.
I have one thing. This is definitely not work session related, but I would like to talk with council after this meeting about handing out flyers and anybody else who wants to volunteer. So, that's it for me.
Okay. Anybody else got new business? And I would ask for someone to make a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Young has made a motion to adjourn. Second.
Second.
Mr. Redding has seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you, everyone.